So in our ever ongoing process of updating our house, this is our next little step. We are going to be giving our porch a little bit of a makeover, mostly focusing on the ceiling. The ceiling had no character whatsoever, ugly lights that did not work very well. The trim was falling off, and it's just very, very blah. We are going to line the ceiling with shiplap. We're going to put some nice trim up, and we're going to put some nice, or at least nicer, lights up in place of the ones that are currently there. Okay, so you will need a chop saw or a miter saw of some variety. Make sure you have something with a very sharp blade. These boards are going to butt up end to end. You want it to be a nice clean cut. You also need to have brad nailer. I use this very cheap Harbor Freight model in 2-inch nails. You will need a tape measure. You will need a pencil, and you will need lots of shiplap. Got a pile of it over there. Stuff's already painted. And something that I suggest is that if you're doing this on a ceiling, paint it before you cut the boards and start nailing them up, because that's way easier than painting directly above your head, especially whenever you have other people do it for you. Okay, step one is going to be prepping where you're going to put your stuff up at. Now, I mean, that doesn't mean you have to do very much with the ceiling. If you're going over the existing ceiling, they put drywall up over most of this, which, you know, it doesn't matter if we cover that up. But before we started, we had trim going all the way around, which we pulled that off already. If you got trim up, that kind of stuff needs to come down. If you got nails sticking out, you need to pull them out. Now, the very edge does not have to be super clean, depending on how you're going to finish this. We're going to go up with a crown molding all around, so we have a little bit of freedom about how we're going to handle the edge. All right, so electrical outlets. That's not all going to fall on one board, because that would be easy. What we're going to do is first make sure your power's always off. Whoops. What we're going to do is roughly mark where center is using your kids' crayons. Alright. Now, what we're going to do here, go ahead and measure this side. We're going to do that 27.5 inches. And then we're going to get this next board going on over here. Alright, so I got the next board cut. Pop this one back off. Now you do have to make sure that your boards are lined up the same way that they'll be on the ceiling. The different orientation can be weird. From there, I use a hole saw. I have this 4-inch hole saw that I use for a lot of this kind of stuff. It's great for electrical cut-in boxes and generally just drilling big holes in things. Perfect hole for our cut-in, for our electrical box. Usually boxes like that have to be nailed to something solid.
I wish that.
Setting the boards in place, really straightforward and simple. Everything groove and a tongue. You just gotta press it into place. Now, some of these boards are gonna be warped, so some are more worked than others. But once it's in place, just started, you can tap it a little. If it gives you a hard time, use a little piece of scrap wood to protect the tongue. There we go. Hammer it into place. Make sure that it's fully engaged all the way down. And again, some of the boards are warped, so there'll be a little bit of difference from place to place. Set your nails. Now with these, I shoot in at an angle that helps drive the board back, and it gives it a little bit more pull against the ceiling. So right here, there's only drywall. This board over here is firmly into a stud. So this board and this board that's going to go here along this line are going to be, supporting the weight of the two boards in the middle. That just helps hold it together a little bit. Alright, measuring and cutting. Now, you see we've got a whole board that goes all the way across here, and that's how you want to start. You want to start from whichever side you're going to go on, put the board all the way across, and then this next board, that's going to be your remnant. And then you start the next board, and then the remnant of that one is here, and then the remnant of that one, and so forth. And you always stack the waste from the last board. Come on, focus. You always stack the waste from the last board onto the next row. This is going to minimize how much you have to throw away. So basically right here we've got that board there. We're going to measure that gap. And it doesn't have to be precise. We're looking at roughly 27 and a half, 27 and 3/4. We want there to be a gap at the end, so we're going to do 27 and a quarter. And this is something to keep in mind. We're going to put crown all along the edge. So my gap, it doesn't have to be even, it doesn't have to be super neat. That's something that you have to think about in advance, is, you know, how you're going to finish it out. If you're going wall to wall and you want that to be sealed, you're going to have to make your cuts very, very close. 27 and a quarter, that's what it was. And then, as far as cutting, take our board, I always cut groove side out. See, now this side is going to be engaged to the ceiling up there. That means that this rough edge that comes on every board, that's going to be tucked up against the wall. And then this end over here is going to be the remnant that starts my next row. It's going to have a very nice, clean cut. So, yep, left my tape measure. So we're going to come over here and mark 27 and a quarter, get our cut, go stick that next board up. Take our boards with us and away we go. This is a lot of walking back and forth. That's all right. Let's see if I can get this where we can see where we're working. Maybe. If only I had a tripod or something. There we go. Next board up, rough side out. And now, sometimes, kind of have to pry at the end, get that gap nice and clean. That board just went right up there though. That's nice. This is what I'm talking about. So cutting it the way I cut it, we've got this nice clean edge that's going to finish out or start out this next row. The rough edge towards the wall. See, now this one's warped. Takes a little bit of a whack. And then we cut out for that gap and keep going. This is arguably the hardest part of this project, and that's that gap, because it's not a full board width. Now, if you do some math right at the very, very beginning, you can start at the other end over here with a gap. Yeah, I put it right up against the bricks. If I'd have spaced that out about 1.5 inches before I started, then down here, it would have been close enough that my crown would have covered it. I didn't want to do that, because that math can be kind of hard to do, because these boards overall are 5 inches from seam to seam. No matter what it says on the package, they're 5 inches from seam to seam. So you'd have to divide that entire run by 5 inches to get your measurement. From here, we are going to go, it's 3 3/4, but you also have to measure further down. So like that's less than 3 1/4. So we're going to do 3 inches. I'm going to cut the board 3 inches because this gap is wider than down here. It tapers. So yeah. So now, there is a way that you can do it by doing the math, spacing the boards out. I prefer to just use my table saw. We'll space out to 3 inches. We'll cut that board to fit and then pick up where we left off. So our little porch project as a whole is still not done, but the ceiling is in place. We're gonna have to go back and touch up where the lime wash doesn't quite meet up with the crown, And there's some areas around the beams that we're going to have to make a little cleaner. But it turned out exactly the way we expected it to. Well, this is certainly not the cheapest way to go about a little project like this, but it is easy to do and makes a huge difference if you had no character to start with. So that's that. Thanks for watching, guys. Have a wonderful evening.